The night Calloway was arrested marked the beginning of the end for Marcus Hayes. At least that's what he thought. Brookdale may have seemed quieter after the dramatic events at the mansion, but Marcus knew the storm was far from over. David Calloway had been taken into custody, and though his network had suffered a major blow, the conspiracy that plagued the city was still very much alive. As Marcus sat in his apartment, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. Calloway had been powerful, but the reach of the corruption, the racism that permeated Brookdale's police force, and the layers of hidden alliances went deeper than one man. He had a feeling that Calloway was just one of many puppeteers pulling the strings. The city itself had not recovered. Protests continued. Anger and frustration simmered in the streets. Marcus could hear the distant shouts of demonstrators from his window, their voices demanding justice that felt long overdue. His phone buzzed. A text from Tom McAllister flashed on the screen. "We need to talk. Things are moving fast. Lexi found something you need to see." Marcus's heart raced. Whatever Lexi had uncovered, it could blow the entire investigation wide open, or bury them all. Meeting at the underground safe house, Marcus was greeted by Tom and Lexi, both of them wearing the same grim expressions. The safe house was cluttered with new files, surveillance footage, and documents that Lexi had pieced together over the last few days. Lexi gestured to her computer screen. Calloway wasn't working alone. "I've found connections between him and several key figures in Brookdale's government. But there's more." She clicked a few keys, bringing up a grainy video feed of a secret meeting in a high-rise building. "Look," Marcus leaned in closer. The footage showed a group of people gathered around a large conference table, their faces partially obscured. One figure in particular stood out, Mayor Michael Grayson, the charismatic leader of Brookdale, who had always publicly denounced police corruption. But in this video, he was conspiring with Calloway and others. "This goes all the way to the top," Lexi said, her voice tight with frustration. "The mayor, the police chief, several city council members. They've all been working together to keep Brookdale divided. They profit from the unrest." McAllister crossed his arms. "And they've been feeding the police department the resources they need to keep profiling and brutalizing black communities. It's not just about power, it's about control." Marcus clenched his fists. The depth of the corruption was staggering. Mayor Grayson, the very man who had promised reform, was at the center of it all. But if they were going to take him down, they needed more than just this footage. They needed undeniable evidence that would hold up against the powerful forces protecting him. Finding Brandon Shaw wasn't easy. Shaw had been a loyal enforcer for Calloway, overseeing many of the underground dealings that fueled the corrupt network. After Calloway's fall, Shaw had gone into hiding, knowing that his former associates would likely try to tie up loose ends. Lexi tracked him down to a dilapidated hotel on the outskirts of the city. It was the kind of place where people went when they wanted to be forgotten. As Marcus, Lexi, and McAllister approached Shaw's room, the tension was palpable. They had no idea if Shaw would cooperate or if he was still loyal to the remnants of Calloway's network. McAllister knocked on the door, his hand resting near his gun, just in case. After a long moment, the door creaked open and Shaw appeared, disheveled, unshaven, and looking like a man who hadn't slept in days. His eyes darted nervously between the three of them. "You're here to kill me, aren't you?" Shaw said, his voice shaky. "No," Marcus replied calmly. "We're here to offer you a way out, but you need to give us something first." Shaw swallowed hard, stepping aside to let them in. The room was a mess. Empty food containers, piles of newspapers, and a laptop on the bed displaying a news article about Calloway's arrest. "I don't know what you think I can give you," Shaw said, pacing the small space. "Calloway's done. His network's falling apart." "We're not here for Calloway," Lexi interjected, her tone sharp. "We want Grayson, the mayor." Shaw stopped pacing, his eyes widening. "You're going after Grayson? You have no idea what you're dealing with. Grayson's more dangerous than Calloway ever was." Marcus crossed his arms. "Then help us take him down." Shaw hesitated, rubbing the back of his neck. "Grayson controls everything. Police, politics, businesses." Tracking Eric Whitman was no easy task. Whitman was a ghost, always moving between safe houses and keeping a low profile. He knew how valuable his knowledge was, and he protected it fiercely. Marcus, McAllister, and Lexi spent weeks following leads, chasing shadows through the back streets of Brookdale. Each time they thought they were getting close, Whitman slipped away, leaving them with nothing but dead ends. But then they caught a break. Lexi intercepted a communication between Whitman and one of Grayson's advisors. He was planning to meet with Grayson at a private club in the heart of the city, a place known for its elite clientele and discreet dealings. "We have one shot at this," Marcus said as they prepared for the operation. "If Whitman sees us coming, he'll disappear for good." The plan was simple: infiltrate the club, corner Whitman, and get the access codes to Grayson's secret account. But nothing in Brookdale ever went according to plan. As they entered the club, the opulence of the place was overwhelming. Rich, dark wood paneling, crystal chandeliers, and well-dressed elites sipping expensive drinks. It was a world far removed from the chaos in the streets, a reminder of the power and wealth that Grayson and his associates controlled. Marcus scanned the room, his eyes landing on Whitman, who was seated at a table in the corner, talking to a man Marcus recognized as one of Grayson's bodyguards. McAllister nodded to Marcus. "We do this quick and clean, no mistakes." But as they approached, Whitman's eyes locked onto Marcus's, and his face twisted in recognition. He bolted from the table, pushing through the crowd as Marcus and McAllister gave chase. The club erupted into chaos as Whitman fled through the back door, sprinting down a narrow alleyway. Marcus was right behind him, the sound of his own footsteps echoing in his ears. Just as Whitman reached the end of the alley, McAllister stepped out from the shadows, gun drawn. Whitman skidded to a stop, his chest heaving with panic. "Where do you think you're going?" McAllister said, his voice dangerously calm. Whitman's eyes darted between Marcus and McAllister. "You don't know what you're doing. Grayson will kill you all." Marcus stepped forward. "Maybe. But first, you're going to give us the codes." With Whitman's help, Marcus and his team gained access to Grayson's secret offshore account. It was a treasure trove of evidence, transactions, bribes, money laundering schemes. It was everything they needed to bring Grayson down. But as Lexi worked to decrypt the account, a realization hit them like a ton of bricks. Grayson had planned for this. He had set up multiple contingency plans, including fake accounts, shell companies, and hidden assets. Taking him down wouldn't be as simple as exposing the money trail. "He's covered his tracks," Lexi said, frustration evident in her voice. "Even if we release this, it might not be enough to take him down. He's too well connected." Grayson's got a son, Kyle Grayson. He's a weak link, always getting into trouble, and Grayson's been covering it up for years. If you can get to Kyle, you might be able to pressure Grayson into folding. McAllister raised an eyebrow. "And how do we get to him?" Shaw smirked. "He's not exactly subtle. Kyle likes to party. Drugs, women, the whole 9 yards. I know a place he frequents. If you're lucky, you might catch him there." "There is something. My father. He's planning something huge, a power play. He's going to use the unrest in the city to consolidate control. If you don't stop him now, he'll be untouchable." With Kyle's information, Marcus and his team were finally able to piece together Grayson's plan. The mayor had been fueling the racial tensions in Brookdale, using the protests and police brutality as a means to justify increased surveillance, militarized police, and a crackdown on civil liberties. He was positioning himself as the city's savior, but in reality, he was consolidating power for himself and his allies. The plan was in motion, and if they didn't act fast, Grayson would become more powerful than ever. Marcus knew they had to move quickly. They needed to expose Grayson's plan to the public before it was too late. But Grayson wasn't going down without a fight. As they prepared to release the information, Marcus received a chilling message. "You think you can stop me? I own this city, and when I'm done, there won't be anything left of you." The threat was clear. Grayson was coming for them. As the tension mounted, Marcus's team began to fracture. Shaw, who had been instrumental in helping them so far, began to grow paranoid. He feared that Grayson would come after him next, and his loyalty to Marcus started to waver. Late one night, Marcus received a call from Lexi. Shaw's gone. He took the files and ran. Marcus's blood ran cold. Without the files, they had no leverage against Grayson. Shaw had betrayed them, and now everything was at risk. "We need to find him," Marcus said, his voice filled with urgency. "If Grayson gets to him first, we're finished." The search for Shaw took them deep into the heart of Brookdale's criminal underworld. Shaw had gone to ground, hiding among the city's most dangerous factions. But with McAllister's contacts and Lexi's hacking skills, they were able to track him down to a warehouse on the outskirts of the city. As they approached the warehouse, Marcus's heart pounded in his chest. This was it, their last chance to get the files and stop Grayson. But when they arrived, they found the warehouse already swarming with Grayson's men. A firefight erupted, bullets flying as Marcus and McAllister fought their way through the building. The air was thick with smoke, and the sound of gunfire echoed through the empty corridors. When they finally reached Shaw, he was cornered, cowering in the back of the warehouse. His face was pale, and his hands trembled as he held the files close to his chest. "I didn't have a choice," Shaw pleaded, his voice shaking. "Grayson's men were coming for me. I had to protect myself." Marcus leveled his gun at Shaw, his jaw clenched in anger. "You betrayed us." Shaw's eyes filled with fear. "Please, don't kill me. I'll give you the files. Just let me go." Marcus hesitated, his finger hovering over the trigger. But before he could make a decision, a shot rang out, and Shaw collapsed to the ground, blood pooling around him. Marcus spun around to see McAllister lowering his gun, his face expressionless. "There was no saving him," McAllister said coldly. Marcus stared at Shaw's lifeless body, the weight of everything that had happened crashing down on him. With Shaw dead and the files in their possession, Marcus and his team had what they needed to take down Grayson. But as they prepared to release the information, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Grayson was still out there, still pulling the strings, and even with the evidence they had, the battle was far from over. As Marcus stood on the steps of Brookdale City Hall, watching the sun rise over the city, his phone buzzed with a new message. "You may have won this round, Marcus, but I'm still here, and I'm not done with you yet." Marcus's heart raced as he read the message. The fight wasn't over, it was just beginning, and this time there would be no turning back. Stay tuned for the episode 5 of this intriguing story coming soon on this channel. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel for more interesting and captivating racial discrimination stories.